You'll find some of the best talents in Football Manager in Portugal, and that's the focus of today's show. We're going to get started with Porto. It's a great chance to find out more about training as well. My name is Daljit, this is Bustthenet. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification button to stay in touch for more videos like this. This is a great club to start with if you want to learn about tactics and training. Your long-term goal at Porto should be commercial success driven by an excellent academy. So one of the first things you need to do is to set up a long-term plan to upgrade the academy, attract the best talent, develop them and get some success in the Champions League. In the short run, you need to identify players in your first team squad you can't afford to lose because they will be the bedrock on which current success is built on. High potential players have a strong chance of developing within a squad that is already successful. So look out for players in your main team squad who may get poached by other clubs in Europe. First thing you want to do is identify the most important players in your squad. One of the biggest challenges you will face very early in your career is trying to keep the major European clubs from poaching your best players. These include Danilo Pereira, Bruno Costa, Alex Telles, and this just to name 3 of them. What you can do is move funds from the transfer budget over to the wage budget. This allows you to offer better contracts to these players so that even if they do leave the club, you can get better value for them. Don't forget when you do renegotiate their contracts to remove any minimum fee release clauses or at least make them really big. Just identify 1 or 2 players. Don't go offering new contracts to all 11 of them. A concern of this Porto squad is the pace at the back. Their best defenders aren't very fast. This lack of pace with the central defenders means that playing very high up the pitch may be a liability. You might want to consider formations that may be a 4-1-2-3, or even if you do use a 4-3-1-2, you got to make sure that the gap between your defensive line and your line of engagement isn't very far and you're not playing with a high defensive line. Porto has 2 fullbacks who are pretty fast and can provide a threat in wider areas. Their high acceleration also means that they can recover from positional mistakes. This gives you a lot of options with tactics, even allowing you to tweak within games, maybe turn on the overlap when you think you might need it. There aren't a lot of very good fullbacks in the world, so these players are going to attract some interest. A long-term strategy has to be for you to develop quality fullbacks in your own club. You're going to be looking at scouting them as a priority as well. This club's vision lines up perfectly with any strategy that includes developing young players for profit. Signing high reputation players can be a challenge because their underlying value is higher. There are ways of achieving this, and these revolve around building up very good cash reserves. You do this by selling young players at a profit and loaning the rest out for monthly fees where possible. The board's expectations aren't very high. Reach the first round of the Champions League. If you want to get better value for your players, you need to go much further than that. This means that you need to mess around with the wage budget. As you can see, there isn't a lot of room. So if you find one player, for example, and you wanted to give him a better contract, you will quickly discover that you can't afford to pay the wages. So what do? So you move over to finances, make a budget adjustment, transferring funds from the transfer budget over into the wage budget so that you can give the player the contract needed to keep him at the club. Now we come to the $1 million question. Delegate or take charge? I personally prefer to take charge. You can still delegate. However, I recommend that you do additional focus training, which means that you should be in charge of individual training for all players. When it comes to contracts and transfers, you definitely want to take control. You do not want the director of football to sell your best players or sign players that you might not need. You can also set up conditions for offering out players on loan. I recommend at least making sure that their facilities are good. You want to make sure that you invest in your youth coaching and youth recruitment. This will affect the quality of players that are coming into your academy, players that you can't really see just yet. The biggest issue at Porto is going to be the quality of coaches in the main squad, because the training facilities and the main squad coaches are the ones that will affect the development of every player you can see at the club. There are plenty of vacancies for coaches for the main team squad, so what I suggest you do is go out there, find yourself a defending tactical coach, defending technical coach, possession tactical coach, and a possession technical coach. This is something I consider a priority for anybody who wants to manage Porto. You do not want to hinder the development of your players with average coaches in your team. The next thing I want to do is get my players familiar with the tactics as quickly as possible. In preseason, I will have one training schedule, and once preseason is over, we'll start early season training with a schedule that promotes tactical familiarity before I switch over to schedules that are a bit more focused. The youth team's training schedules will be based on the main team's training schedules, with one exception. On Wednesdays, they'll have match practice. Once they become a bit more familiar with the tactics, their training will become a bit more focused. A monthly calendar could end up looking like this. I will leave most of the players on generic position training until I figure out what tactics we'll be using with the main team. An easy way for you to determine what kind of tactics your squad might be able to use is to go down to Team Report and check squad depth. Here I see that Porto have pretty decent strikers, which gives us quite a few options. We can play with a 2-striker system or even go with lone forward systems. They have pacey players who can play on the flanks either as wingers, inverted wingers or inside forwards. Their midfield features players who've got very good positioning, off the ball, passing, decisions, vision, balance, agility. Some of them even have good flair. This gives us a lot of options on the kind of tactical systems that we can deploy. While this team has got very good fullbacks, the lack of pace in central defense does limit how high up the pitch we can go with our defensive line. I'll be using a few tactics this season. I want to increase the versatility of my players as they play in different positions. This will also apply to the youth team, so every time I change tactics, they'll change too. So during preseason, I'll try 2 tactics, the 4-3-1-2 and the 4-1-2-3. During preseason, I'll pay a lot of attention to how my team moves on and off the ball. This is going to be really important because I should be able to see passing patterns and attacking patterns if I'm playing with weaker teams. Otherwise, the tactic is obviously a failure. After a few games, I will have nailed down the tactics and I'll be ready for the main season. Since this Porto save will also be my youth development save, I will share my strategy for youth development. It's based on Ajax's TIPS model and Heerenveen's STEM model for identifying potential youth players. There is a cycle to their development. First, you scout players who fit a certain profile. Then you design schedules that will focus the development along attributes you need. Finally, you assess their development, ensuring the good players identified early and given appropriate match time. My model splits the attributes into several categories. These include speed, personality, footballing intelligence, and technical attributes. Naturally, when you scout youth players, you're not going to be able to find a lot of players who start out with good attributes in all these areas. So I begin by filtering out and starting with natural fitness and determination. This at least gives me 2 very important attributes out of the gate. To keep things really simple for Football Manager, I then pick 5-star players or 4-star players. Then I design schedules that aim to improve the attributes in these 4 categories. Over time, I shall monitor the development of these players to ensure that the attributes I'm after show improvement. Ultimately, they will need to be able to show growth in attributes that allow me to play them in one of the duty structures of the game: defend, attack, or support. So while my coaches are nurturing these talents at home, I make sure my scouts have work to do. They will be sent to nations to scout for upcoming affordable talent. These countries include Portugal, Belgium, Bulgaria, South Africa, Austria, Ukraine, Serbia, Mexico, Switzerland, Holland, and Italy. The scouts I send here, they need to have high scouting potential ability and adaptability because some of these scouts may need to move around. Over the course of time, I will also expand the number of scouts I employ at Porto. We plan to use 2 tactics when the season begins, a 4-1-2-3 and a 4-3-1-2. The 4-1-2-3 will feature a false 9, an inverted winger, and an inside forward in a 3-prong attack. They will be supported in midfield with an attacking playmaker on attack and a Carrillo and a defensive midfielder. In defense, we expect Alex Telles to be bombing down the flanks on overlap. He will have a ball-playing defender, a central defender, and an inverted wingback on supporting play. The second tactic is a 4-3-1-2. It has an overlapping left back that is going to bomb down a creative left flank led by a Mazzala on attack and a DLP. In attack, we will be using a shadow striker, a target man, a pressing forward, and the fullback on the right flank will be told to cross aim target man. The system will be played on the standard defensive line with standard line of engagement. I will occasionally move the defensive line higher, but I do not plan to move the line of engagement any higher than standard line of engagement. This is to ensure not too many gaps appear between my midfield and my defensive line. Porto will be my youth development save for FM20, so the story does not end today. This save was inspired by somebody on Discord because he turned Porto into a very successful club. I aim to show you what you can do with training as well. So follow me on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, let me know what you think, share your ideas with me. If you have any questions, look me up on Twitter at Bustthenet or addictedtofm.com. My website, once again, I'm on Twitch, so join me there too. You can always ask me questions or join in the conversation. Maybe even suggest a show or two. You know, I'll pick it up. You guys take care, have a good one. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.